So my name's Jenny Davidson. I am a clinical midwife. I've been a midwife now for over 25 years. I still work clinically in my local NHS maternity unit. I do that part-time because I also am a clinical governance director. And I've worked in clinical governance for about 15 years now, both in the NHS and the independent sector. And since last year, I'm also a trustee for patient safety learning as well. I first became interested in patient safety working clinically. As a junior midwife, I was very enthusiastic, but as we all do, made many mistakes. Some of them were very minor, and I learned as I went, as we all do. Some of them were more serious, and actually I had some really sort of negative experiences, both with the response to what happened, the lack of support, the feeling of blame, but also just felt very concerned about what I had done to people I was caring for. I felt the burden of responsibility and felt very strongly that I really didn't want that to happen to anyone else. And was very driven to make sure I learned from them and that I didn't do them again, but also I could share that learning as well. So I think that led me into being interested in patient safety and the importance of doing the best you can, but also when things go wrong, that there is a really good support system and a learning system to make things better, make things safer, and that there is a genuine momentum forward about improvement. I think as a midwife, I definitely very much enjoy going back to the floor and contact directly with women and birthing people, being part of a very tight family of maternity midwives and doctors. You know, you really feel like you're part of a team, and it just is very grounding and very rewarding, and it's very directly impactful. So I really enjoy being midwife still. I think being a clinical governance lead means that I can have a broader impact. Sometimes you don't see the end result so clearly, but it's great to be able to influence in a larger way, to create system changes, and to influence in a kind of broader sense across many different teams. As a trustee of patient safety learning, it's given me a great opportunity not only to network with very experienced people in patient safety world, but it's also given me an opportunity to use the resources that are available as well, and at times contribute to those. So the hub is an excellent networking opportunity. There are tools on there that I can use as a midwife, I can bring to my clinical governance work. And just connecting up with people. I mean, nobody knows everything, but as a collective community, you can really drive through improvements, sharing experiences, sharing successes, sharing things that don't work so well, so that we can all collectively learn. And I think it's just an excellent charity to work for, and a real privilege to be part of a movement that has so much impact at a local level, at a ward level, but also, you know, at a really high level, at a political level as well. So, you know, it's a great privilege to be a trustee, and it's been great to connect up with a vast community of passionate people on patient safety. I think there are ongoing patient safety challenges. There are some that have been around for a very long time, and there's emerging things that we are now facing. And I think one of the problems we have with patient safety is that there are just so many priorities, there are so many demands, there are so many recommendations, there are so many changes happening across the healthcare sector, and it's just really hard to keep up. It's really hard to prioritize. And I think that is a real challenge for us to know, you know, what should we be doing, or how can we aggregate everything together to really think about it, and be most effective. So I think in a broad sense, those are what the bigger challenges are. There's just so much to do. I think on a more ground floor level, I think the human factors are remaining and in fact probably worsening. I find that on shifts that critical bit of the basics is still being having the most impact on patient safety. So just not having enough staff to be able to work effectively, having very tired staff, therefore having stressed and less visible clinical leadership, changing demands, lots of additional work that we have to do over and above the care that we have to do. And then just society's expectations as well on what they want from a healthcare system. They all create lots of tensions, but lots of opportunities as well. But it is the basics on that kind of ground floor level that either make or break that shift feeling safe or not feeling safe. So I think that's something that we still need to remind ourselves about on a daily basis. I think the next few years hold some exciting opportunities and challenges for patient safety. On a project perspective, we've got the new investigation response framework coming in from NHS England. That will create a great opportunity, but also a lot of challenge and uncertainty. That there are significant changes ahead, which we need to be bold and brave about and give something a try, but to understand that this is an evolving thing. So I think that that's the big thing on the currently that we're working on across the healthcare sector. So I think the second challenge is around the increasing technology, the new systems that are coming in, which again can create amazing opportunities for increasing patient safety. But there could also be direct and indirect challenges with new technology, and us keeping up with that, whether that's in a clinical governance, patient safety framework, or a midwife on the floor, or a health professional on the floor. I think there are challenges we just need to be very conscious about, that it's not going to make patient safety worse, that it's not going to take us away from that patient care. So I think those are the two main challenges and opportunities that are coming up. They're either here and they're knocking on the door, or they're pending. So we have a lot of upskilling to do and a lot of thought about how to do this as safely as possible. I think if we had a magic wand right now, I think for me it would be to get the basics right still. For me as a midwife on the floor, having the right number of staff with the right staffing skill mix is probably key to really getting patient safety right. I know when I walk on for a shift that the people around me and the shift leader are probably the most critical things to getting through that shift in a safe way for us and for the women and the families we look after. On a broader scale, my other magic one would be around just trying to streamline some of the ask that we have. There's immense amounts of requirements that we have to satisfy, and that takes us away sometimes from the key issues of the direct impact of patient safety or clinical governance. It detracts sometimes from the basics that we have to do. So it'd be great if we could just streamline some of the broader ask that we have, the bureaucracy, the recommendations, the improvements across the sector, that are great and they're important, but there's just a lot of them. And I think that we get lost in the important stuff sometimes. So I think that's the two things from a micro level and a macro level that I'd do with my magic wand. I live in Brighton, and during lockdown, I started sea swimming along with many, many other people because the swimming pools were shut. And it was great to meet a whole new community, great for connections, excellent for well-being. But it really brings home to you the respect you have to have for the sea. So it's an amazingly powerful, beautiful thing, but very unforgiving. And those assessments that you do each time you go down to have a sea swim are fundamentally important, and I think you can apply similar things across the board to patient safety. So you go down to the seafront and you have a look, and you have to see what's going on out there in the sea. You have to look around you and see who's around you, and you also have to look inwardly and think, what's going on with me today? Am I okay to do this today? And then make a decision, and know when you're out of your depth, know when you've gone too far and what you're doing is become unsafe as you're doing it. So I think it's taught me a lot about that sort of initial pause, have a look, have a think, have a touch base with self, and then constantly look at that as you go through things as well. Just reflect, am I okay now? Am I okay now? It just makes you stay safe on a continual basis. So I've brought that back to my patient safety work at the moment. So I was going to say that rather than surprising everyone, I think my first lay board sister would be incredibly surprised that I work in clinical governance now, because as a junior midwife, a junior student midwife, I was probably the least likely person to go into a governance type role. I wasn't particularly good at following the rules. I was sent home many times for not following the uniform policy. I was pretty disorganized and usually very messy. So I was frowned upon and had to be made into the midwife that I have become today. So she would be incredibly surprised that I've ended up in a world where, you know, there are guidance and there are standards and there is a sort of a framework to work within. I mean, I still take some of the things that I did then. I still challenge rules that don't make sense. I still want to make sure that the care is the most important thing and that policies and strategies are sort of supporting what happens in reality on the front line. But I think she'd be incredibly surprised that I'm in the job I do now, compared to that first few days on labour ward and the messy creature that I was. So there you go. That would surprise her.